So would you guys please introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm Anna, Anna Rotty.
I'm Rozanne, hermelym Silvestro.
So I'm wondering if you guys can tell me a little bit about your training as artists.
Start?
Sure. Well, I've done art my whole life. My mom was an artist, so she really encouraged doing a lot of art. And then when I went to school, I didn't think I was going to study it full time. So I just took a minor, and then it slowly transitioned into a BFA. So I guess you can't really get away from it.
And where was that again?
University of Massachusetts in Amherst.
Let's see, I would say it all started with my mother. She was pretty much a fashion designer and had her own little store in LA. And she taught me to sew since I was extremely young. I can't remember when I started. And so then at 12, I begged her to start taking me to adult education classes so I could paint and draw the figure model. And she would go drop me off, and then I would go into the figure drawing class, and she would go to the painting class next door. But then I worked in agencies in the city, in LA for a few years, and then decided to go back to art school, and I went to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. And graduated there, and then moved up to the Bay Area. And for my fine art, though, I kept continuing. I kind of see it as exercising, the whole drawing the figure. So every week I would still do it 3 years. And then I did my day job, and is now focusing on fine art.
So are there any people in particular that were influences for you guys, either personally or art historically, in what you're doing?
I can go. Actually, 2 people. I brought my book. In my researching of the oil painting, I came upon this little book on this Russian painter called Sergei Bongar. And he used to have this huge following and taught all these lessons. And after he died, because he refused to do a book when he was alive, his wife put together and contacted all his students over the years and years that had followed him, and wrote this little book on all his lectures and his discussion that to me, I felt like really connected, was that he said that creativity is a freedom of choice. And then the other one was that you have to have your passion in the feel that you have of the object or the scene or whatever you're connected. I felt to him when I. The other one was Andrew Wyeth. He was a rebel, and I've always felt like a rebel. Like I kind of connected to him because he also kind of like didn't want to do what his father was telling him. His father would try to promote him to do color. Why aren't you doing color? And he refused. He just kind of did his own thing and made his own path. So I kind of connected with him that way. It's always the same thing as well, where you have to paint. I paint and roll ink on a plexiglass kind of surface. And that's what intrigues me, is the stroke you get from it, like you're painting on glass. So it's kind of fun to see that, and that's like what totally keeps me going. But you have to paint it in reverse. So you're thinking reverse, and you're also thinking, okay, light source is the paper, right? So
like a watercolor somewhat.
Right, exactly. So but the common thing that we had was that there's always a huge surprise whenever the print's done. It's like, whoa, you think what it's going to look like, but then the surprise is like what keeps me in it, because it's like, otherwise I'm bored. I mean, I'm just keep moving on to the next thing. So
What I've been interested in lately is kind of taking something and you have so much control in it, but then allowing other forces. Like, it always surprises you, and that part of it is really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's the unknown that's just keeps you just fascinated. I don't know.
You can keep learning
it.
from it and do the same thing twice, and it looks different. And that's
and you never know, right? You just never know. Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess I'm particularly interested, with you guys in who are the people that shaped you artistically? That how did you wind up where you are? So which I think you talked to.
As far as I would say my mom a lot. Like she was always doing art and having like she would teach a night class and have a bunch of women over in the dining room and they'd be drawing and I'd try to like stay up late and sneak down and so seeing like I'm interested in figures a lot, I think because of her. And then other influences, I studied abroad in Italy, and so being there and seeing a lot of Renaissance art, I kind of you can't really tell so much from the work that I brought here for this show, but I like to layer a lot of like iconic imagery into my own personal environment, so kind of trying to connect to history and kind of see like what that means for you, or how much can you connect to something if you haven't had a first-hand experience through it. So that's, I think a lot of Renaissance painting is where that comes from. Having like artwork in churches or in different spaces as a like form of propaganda, and that's pretty interesting.
When you say you like it, you mean you're intrigued.
Yes,
by it.
yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it sort of blends the art pieces, the painting, but also where it is and the whole space, kind of an experience. For photographers, I really was influenced by Man Ray a lot, by like layering lots of images into one, and kind of also Jerry Uelsman, like playing with different negatives and layering them to look like it's one kind of imaginary scene.
So you both work with traditional media, but you do unusual things with them. And I think that's the one of the links that I see. And also that you're both interested in the figure. What can you say about the materials that you work with, and how you sort of came to work with them that way?
Let's see. Well, I've been interested in photography and all different types of photography. So I started doing analog, and was interested in kind of having a unique print. So with that background, I've tried to sort of create that through a digital process. I guess kind of treat an image more as a unique piece than like something that can be reproduced. Working through is what are they? But technically they're photographs that I've taken mostly of my family members sleeping, and I manipulate them a little bit in Photoshop, but in some of them, like where you see the pink in some of those, that's me like working into the file, and then knowing that when I print it, I'm printing it on a synthetic paper, so the inks don't sink into the paper like they normally would, which allows the ink to kind of move around and be susceptible to the environment. So that process interests me from a concept standpoint, like having something only be so much in my control. And then with these images of like a dream-like people dreaming, or like different states of being, what is really real, and a photograph is supposed to represent reality or a moment in reality, but there's so many factors that go into it, like the perspective of the photographer, or how much is shown and how much isn't shown. So I'm sort of trying to work with that idea in a different way.
So what can you say about Rosanne, about your working method, as it's evolved?
I think it's evolved towards being, the topics are more focused on social and kind of political kind of topics and dilemmas. And I kind of want I try to intend to have the visual be engaging to the person who's viewing it. So, and I try to also create them to be very beautiful, even though, because I guess it's my background in the graphics industry, where you want to keep them engaged. So I figure if it's really beautiful, then they want to stand there in front of it for long periods of time. But I want them to sort of kind of engage into the image and start a conversation with it and have them start thinking about the subject matter. And they kind of have a slight kind of graphic, real strong composition is critical to the pieces for me. Like in some of them, the negative and white spaces are equally important or more important than the actual drawn parts of the image. Everything from where you place something to the color you pick all says something. Has influenced my work tremendously.
Is that, are you part of a lineage? Is there? Do you feel like you have historical antecedents? People that came before you that you feel like, oh yeah, this is where I came from.
That's a good question.
I think I need to think about that more.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Are there, while we're talking about that, are there other artists that you've been influenced by in terms of that? Like, I'm wondering if there are people who've sort of made political statements with their work.
Well, I think of Andy Warhol for one, and I honestly don't care for his images.
Oh.
I mean, they're not but what they're very significant. I mean, just the fact. I mean, I was very influenced when he did the Marilyn Monroe in the soup can repeated, kind of representing that whole mass,
Commodification.
Right, exactly. Like in the grocery stores, that you have just not one ketchup, you have 20 ketchups, and it's like overwhelming.
So can you both tell us who your favorite male and female artists are? In a second or two.
Yeah, well, first that comes to mind, Francis Bacon. I really like his work. And then female, Marlene Dumas. So painters.
Yeah, and I can see elements of both of them in your work. That's interesting. Yes, that are removed. Yeah, that's cool. Yes, Rozanne.
I don't have a favorite. Of course, I have to rebel.
You like them all.
Yes, I like them all.
No, and you can't tell a friend. Yes, we gotta finish this up. Okay, or we could say, do you like Degas?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, give her a woman.
Do you like Katakowicz?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. You're committed.
Yay! I'm done.
All right. Thank you both very much. Okay, so